So next to me I have a bed full of garlic. I did a video, I'll tag it up here for you, on how to plant them, how to water them, some nice tips to get you going. But this video is about how this season's garlic crop was a bit of a fail. I want to tell you why it's a fail and also tell you what I'm going to be doing differently next year to make sure I don't run into the same issues as I have this year. So to get started, I want to tell you what are the issues that I've had. Firstly, I had a huge amount of rust that came and attacked specifically these beds. The pot at the back, which I'll show you, and the raised bed had no rust issues. It was only these two beds. But that took a big knock on their growth and their ability to photosynthesize and get energy for the spring push. The second issue that I faced was the amount of rain we got. This year we got a huge amount of rain, which didn't do well for the plants. That constant moisture and wetness, that probably led to quite a big attack of rust. It's also not great for the bulbs. The third issue is heat. We haven't had heat. We're in November already and I'm still in long sleeves. The last 3 days it's been raining 15-16 degrees. We haven't reached the high enough temps for the garlic to be able to form bulb. I'm going to bring you in close, dig around so you can see the bulbs have started forming, but they're really small. And that's down to heat. They're just not getting the amount of heat that they need right now at this time of the year. The fourth issue I faced, and you can see it's been a challenging year to grow garlic, is the up and down winter temperatures. Some days there was snow on the mountains and it was 8-9 degrees, which is great for garlic. The next week it was 26 and we were on the beach in our costume swimming in the middle of winter. That's not what garlic wants. And you'll see in some of the bulbs how they've split, sprouted, and that's the imbalance in temperatures that hot, cold, it just confuses the bulbs and ultimately they split, they divide, and each of those then start growing because outside it's 26-27 degrees, so they're activated to start growing, but then it goes back down to 8-9 degrees. So our fluctuating winter temperatures really also haven't helped. And I think that's about it. I think 4 issues is enough to deal with in one season for one crop. But I want to show you some of the issues that we've had so you can see them for yourself. I'm going to show you the different beds so you can see how they've performed. I also then want to tell you what I'm going to be doing differently right now to try and save the harvest, and also next year to make sure that I don't run into the same issues again. So one thing I will say with the rust is these plants were covered in rust. It was really, really bad. During winter, it literally looked like a rusted piece of metal. However, I did nothing. I wanted to try and not have to spray them because with our winter rains, everything will just wash off. And I didn't want to go into a continuous weekly cycle of spraying with copper. It's just not necessary. And by the time you get knocked with rust and you realize it's a massive problem, and it's winter and it's raining, it's pretty much too late. So I just let them do what they need to do, and they did recover. They've put on quite a bit of new growth. Then when it comes to the bulbs, here are some examples of where you can see the bulb split and resprouted. I pulled these out because they had already all started dying off and there really wasn't any point in keeping them in the ground. That being said though, if you look at this one, if we were to take these off, there is a nice bulb that's formed on the inside, pretty small, but you can throw this into a roast and you can still eat it. So it is bulbing, it wants to do what it needs to do. The climate just didn't play along this year. So to give you an idea of what's actually going on, let me show you. So there you can see it's starting to bulb. There's a nice little bulb formed here, but I mean we're not talking about garlics this size. It's the size of, if you're South African, a £5 coin. So it's bulbing. It's just not growing to the size it needs to, and that's because we haven't had the heat that we've needed for that bulb to start forming and swelling out. If we have a look at the garlic in one of the raised beds on the side of the house, somewhere different, you can see they are pretty much even worse off than the ones in the raised beds. If we have a look at the bulbs, you can see they are tiny, absolutely tiny. Same thing here, it's just not happening for them. I would say the raised bed performed way better than this bed, and it's probably due to how shallow the bed is, which allows it to get a little bit more heat than the bigger raised bed. And then the other way we planted our garlic is in a pot. Planted a few in a pot just to see how they would go. These didn't get hit with rust at all, which is quite awesome. They are also starting to bulb quite nicely. Not as much as the others, but they don't get as much sun as the other side. But being in a pot, this one is now going to go into the greenhouse, so we can really up the temperature significantly. And then let's see if we can save even just these few garlics here to get some nice bulbs that we can store from. And then we know for next year, keep them covered from the rain and try and get it as cold as possible. I'm probably going to freeze the bulbs for next year, give them a good solid cold spell just before I plant them, just overwinter them a little bit. And let's see, it's an experimental thing at this stage based on our microclimate, which is proving to be a little bit tricky for these guys. So now we are in the greenhouse and the garlic has just been added in, nicely slotted in behind some tomatoes, some mint and some pepino melons, so nicely blended into the back there. It gets about 30-35 degrees in here. We have to put the fan on, which is nice, so we're going to get a consistent temperature in here, which is what the garlic needs. And then let's see what the bulbs do. There's still enough green growth to let it go. It's still early enough in the year that we can have this saved, so hoping for the best. Okay, so I've shared my garlic failures with you in the aim that you can learn from my mistakes. Not necessarily mistakes, but just circumstantial things that are out of my control. However, what I'm going to be doing differently is next year I'm going to be creating covers for the garlic so they don't get exposed to so much rain and wetness during winter. I'm also going to freeze up the bulbs beforehand, or maybe not freeze them, but put them in a crisp drawer so they can get really cold near freezing, which will hopefully just stimulate that overwintering process within the garlic. And then as soon as spring comes, I'm going to bring my garlic into the greenhouse so they can get exposed to that heat, the consistent temperatures, so even if outside there's a massive dip in temperatures or fluctuations, there's a bit more consistency in the greenhouse that I've made, and hopefully that'll sort us out for next year. I'll pretty much only be growing garlic in pots next year, just because our ground, as I've been saying, is just exposed to too many fluctuating elements, be that rain, wind, temperature. We just don't have much consistency, so they'll just be in pots, which is fine. Move them around. We don't need copious amounts of garlic that we're going to sell. So I hope you've been able to learn something from this. I hope it shows you this channel is not about success and flaunting and showing off everything that works. It's about the journey, where I show my failures, show my successes, give you some tips, tricks, things that I've learned so that we can all grow together. I can learn things from the gardening community. I can share tips as and when I learn them. And if you found value in this video, or you've experienced the same thing, share it out to your network so we can all help each other out. And if you've got any questions about your own garlic, what it's looked like, what it's done for you, please drop a comment. I'm more than happy to start up a conversation and see how we can all grow garlic better together. For those of you that don't know, I am based in Cape Town in South Africa. It's got quite a unique climate, quite a changing climate that changes pretty rapidly. So if that helps, great. And yeah, if you'd like to subscribe to my channel, it would be great. It would be great to take you on the journey that I'm on, so you can learn with me as I learn and I share new things. And until next time, happy growing, and I hope your garlic is going to bulb up and give you some massive storage bulbs for the rest of the season.